Hello, I am Bentham and welcome back to Return of the Obra Dinn, which today we are playing on an IBM 8503. And I'm in one of the deaths. You can probably tell which one because the Kraken is up at the front of the ship. It is the death of our good friend the artist in an unfortunate moment. And the reason that I'm here is that I have some investigating to do. I think there are some things we can learn from this that we have not yet because of the numbers. The numbers on the hammocks. Now, the thing is that the people in the hammocks are impossible to look at. You can't hold down E and get their identity, so you can't see their faces. But then some people aren't in hammocks. These two people over here are at a table, and they're right next to some hammocks. In fact, this one has just fallen down. So what this leads me to believe is that these two people here correspond to these two hammocks. So, let's take a look at this one. He is on the crew art, and this one is unblurred, meaning that as far as the game is concerned, there is a means for us to work out who this person is. So, it sounds like they are number 41, which you can just about make out if you look there. Though, also, I believe, can you phase through here? You could phase through one of these things. I think it was this one here. I was having a look around earlier, and yeah, I can just walk through this table. It doesn't actually exist. So I can get a closer look at the labels. And this weird X, I don't know what the X is about. Can't work it out. Because it just doesn't match up with everything else. So yeah, there's a label missing off this one, but this one here is number 41. So let's take a look in the book at who number 41 is. And it is Wei Li, top man from China, and it would seem from the art that that matches up. So I think we can identify this person. Let's just do this again. Slightly quicker way of getting to them. This is, where is it gone? Number 41, Wei Li. Next thing to do is see if we can work out how this particular person died. So that was the wrong button to press, so let me try that again. 3 memories. So let's just look at the full list of memories on the deck map. So we start with this death, the Doom Part 2. We find them here. And then we also apparently see them in the Doom Part 7 and Part 8. So the question is whether he died in Part 8. We might be able to find this out if we look in the book. To navigate this thing, I keep forgetting what I'm doing. Let's jump to the Doom, and then jump to the end of the Doom in conclusions. They do go missing. So I think the Doom episode 8 is our best chance of finding out what happened to him. Meanwhile, this guy here is the one who was eviscerated by the cannon, and I have now had it confirmed that is how it works. This was another thing where I'm happy it was clarified because it makes sense to clarify it. The case is that when two faces appear on the same page of the book, they both suffered the same fate, and that's why it's like that. So we do know that whoever this person is, they were, if we can find it, shot by a cannon by a beast. Even though they're not visible, the structure of the book indicates that that is how that worked. So a little bit more discovered there. Now, what I did between last episode and this one is I went around this and I wrote down all of the numbers of the hammocks on a map that I've drawn in my notebook of this deck of the ship. So in future, if I look at the slightly later parts of the Doom, I can reference back to the chart that I've made and work out who is closest to certain hammocks and see if we can, from that, work out who came from what hammocks. So the occupied hammocks are these two here, this one, and this one. All the others are unoccupied to varying degrees. Also, the sword hanging here, I reckon, has a relevance. I think this is the sword that the guy with the tattoos used to stab the Kraken, so perhaps its position there is supposed to indicate ownership. Perhaps the guy with the tattoos sleeps in one of these bunks, it's hard to say, or perhaps we can see him going to retrieve the sword in a later scene. So I think at this point we're ready to leave here. There is this guy here. Let me just do a quick check here, see if this one is considered identifiable. No, so we can leave that for now. No way of working it out. We can guess that it's the cook, but that's not by any means a safe bet, because they could just be getting food. It seems like that's what people were doing. The guy that appears to be the steward of Martin was also holding food. And I think they were the steward of Martin. So we can't identify this guy. Let's have a look at this one. Can't identify this one. But I believe this guy here is the same, though theoretically we can identify his fate. This is the only scene we find him in, I believe. Let me check it again, actually. Oh no, 2 memories. Show memories on the deck map. So they appear in the Doom Part 6. Okay, well I was planning on going back there anyway, so we can check out the Doom Part 6 and see if we can see where he goes. Now, a thing about the Doom Part 6, that's the one where someone explodes, and I think I might know who that is. So if we open the book, and we go to a different chapter, we go to the one thing we have from Chapter 9, Escape. I'm going to check the transcript. Tell Pete's mother I tried my best to pull him back to save him. So if we take a look at who this is, we see them in 4 memories. They were involved a lot in the Doom. So show the memories on the map. So the first time we see them is here in... Oh no, that's the last time we see him, of course. The first time we see him is in the Doom Part 5. He's present when that person gets crushed by a cannon. And by the way, I have a theory about who that is. Between episodes, I did a lot of thinking, and a lot of things started making sense to me. And it seems like it makes sense in this game to try and work things out as you go. If you just rush through and get all the cutscenes, then you've got 60 people to work through, and all of them can be identified according to the book, so there's nowhere to go. Right now, the book's telling me a handful of people I can identify, and so I should try and identify them with the information I have before I get it buried under tons of other information. So I think I know who that is. So I know this person appears in the Doom Part 6, in the Doom Part 5, and then in Part 6, and then in Part 7. And we know that they live through the Doom, because then they get murdered later on in the Escape. But they're here in Part 6, and I'm wondering if they are a particular person. So let me just check the exact face. Can I look on the sketch, please? Just as at C. They are that person right there. In front of the helm. Can't be identified themselves, but they may help us in other ways. So, they said they tried to hold someone called Pete back. Now we are finally going to leave this scene, and we're going to go to the Doom Part 6. And I think we can work out who Pete is. I think it's the guy that exploded. There we go, and hopefully we don't have to return to that scene anytime soon. And hear that noise again. Heard it far too many times already. I think it's the deliberate thing by Lucas Pope. He's put the scene with all the clues about the names of like 6 different crew members in the scene with the most awkward opening. Okay, so here's the explosion. Right, let's take a look. That's the guy. He tried to hold him back. He tried to save him. The one who died in the explosion is Pete. Oh, that's a weird effect. Ugh. Okay, so we know this was a double difficulty. Nice. We know this guy's called Pete, so let's find Pete. I remember seeing a Pete before. Let's see. Peter Milroy, midshipman from England. Well done. Be more fates correct. So there we go, we were right about all three. I mean, the artist one was obvious. The helmsman one was slightly more difficult, but that was one of the tougher ones because it's a different chapter entirely that the clue is found in. Okay, so I think if let's go back to, I'll use the contents, that makes sense. Back to the Doom. Go to this one in particular again. Oh, this was, yeah, this was part 6, yes. So 5 others were present. Let me just check. So there's Peter Milroy who exploded. The one we don't know, who was stabbed in the end, I suppose. Why is that not marked, actually? At all. That's an unknown fate. Oh, it's because I couldn't work out exactly how they were stabbed. I'm pretty sure it's a knife, but I'm not 100% sure, so I've left it for now. So, who else was present? This guy was present. We want to find out what happened to him. We know what happened to him. We just need to know who he is, which is going to take a little bit more work, I think. But this guy is somewhere in this scene. So let's take a look around. Now, last we saw him, he was stood right here. Don't see any sign of him now. I don't think anyone else is in the explosion. So he probably moved back. There's the guy, and he has the sword, though actually it looks like a different sword. Now I look at it. It doesn't look like exactly the same one. There's 2 people down here. Who is this? Guy in the hat, don't know much about him yet. We know this guy, he doesn't appear often, really. He's just running around in the background of this scene and doesn't seem to die or anything. Or really be involved. He's just running around with guns trying to help people fight. Oh! There he is, and we never spotted him the first time round, only because we knew to look for him did we find him. So now we know. We can be pretty sure the guy drowned. Let's mark it in the book. In the conclusion, drowned. By the beast, I suppose? For lack of anyone else, the beast ultimately caused it, most likely. It seems like he was thrown. We can take a closer look and see. He's there. Perhaps thrown by this tentacle here. Does this line up? No, actually, the rigging's in the way. How did he get here? What flung him? Perhaps... these ones here are having a moment. Seems like they might have just catapulted him the entire length of the deck. Alright, and I don't think anyone else was present. I think that's everyone accounted for. Now let's... I wonder if... Could we, like... Yeah, we have to, like, move to the side a bit to get through that door, maybe. Slightly weird angle. Okay. We're making progress. Now... There was someone that was present in the Doom Part 8. I forget who exactly it was. Let's take another look. So... Like I was killed by the captain later. We know what happened to him. This guy here, that's the one that could be the cook, but probably isn't, right? This guy was around, but he doesn't have anything happen to him. A guy with a hat was around. This guy, oh, I think it was Whaley we were looking at. He makes it all the way to the Doom Part 8, and I wonder if at that point he dies. And there's this guy as well involved. Also, these people aren't blurred, and I'm wondering why. Because I don't think I've had any indication as to who these people are yet. I know I've seen them. And I can narrow them down to 2 people pretty easily. But I don't know how we're supposed to know which one is which. Like, if I go to the contents and to the crew, They're women, which probably means they didn't have an actual role in the ship considering the time. They're presumably passengers, like Abigail was a passenger. And if we look, there is an Emily Jackson and a Miss Jane Bird, who are passengers from England. And so, presumably that's who those two people are. But how would I know which one is which? I don't think anyone's referred to anyone by name yet. They were just both cowering in that scene. I mean, perhaps if we look at the sketch and it'll tell us that there's more than one scene that they're present in. Like if I select them, one memory. 3 difficulty. So perhaps that's part of it, that it's going to be very, very hard to work out who they are for whatever reason. Yeah, they're both a 3. So I guess the clues right now are very limited, but I don't know how there can be any clues at all. Except he's dancing with someone. It could be that they're married. That's a thought. Let me check the names again. Jackson and Bird. Is there anyone by the name of Jackson or Bird? Doesn't seem like it. No, okay, so that's not the clue. So they're not married to anyone on board or in any way related, most likely. As far as I can tell. Okay. There is another thing about the crew art that I've realised. Because I was thinking, how do we work out who this person is here? Because when you mouse over them, nothing happens. But then I realised there are other people in this scene who don't show you who they are. Which are these 3 people here. You just end up getting this guy and this guy when you try and look at them. Because they're facing away, so you can't identify their face. But the thing is, I think I know who each of them is. I think they're these people. Because we have here a woman in a striped dress. Striped dress, hair, a similar arrangement. Then we have a guy in a white shirt with a sort of dark lining to it, who's bald. Looks like this guy. And then we have 2 people in black uniforms, one with hair, one without. There's a guy with hair, and this guy seems to be in black. So it seems like one of the 2 guards of the Formosan royalty committed some sort of crime and was executed for it. Specifically, this guy. So when we see the execution, I guess we can mark him. Well, I guess the only issue is working out exactly which one this one is. We just need to know the name. And immediately, I suppose it's narrowed down to 4 or maybe even 2 people if we look at the passenger list. So, passengers, here we are. The 4 Formosans. I don't think anyone else is from there. Nope. So it's these 4 people. No shared surnames, if I'm understanding this correctly. We can't quite work it out from that, but it's one of these 4 people. So there we go. We can, I mean, we already knew that those 4 would be these 4 names, but it gives us a little bit more to work with. So, leave that for now. I mean, I know that they're not highlighted, so we can't work them out. And again, I'm getting the buttons wrong. Is there anyone else that we've got that we supposedly can identify that we haven't? I don't think so. But this guy, it says he can. Also, I've realised now, looking on here, this was the guy that was crushed by the cannon a little bit later on. So he moved back through the deck after things started. Whereas Martin just disappeared, I guess went up the other way. So it seems like we might be able to get the complete fate of him. There's this guy here, I don't know what he's about. Actually, I think he is one of the people that murders Lois Linda, or the only person that murders Lois Linda. If we look back here, it says we can work out this guy, don't know how though. Might be a nationality thing, or it might be that we can work out exactly which hammock is his based on his movements in the later scenes. But yeah, this guy is he's in 2 memories. 2 memories on the deck map, let's see. He is in the Doom Part 7. as well as part 1. So he disappears until part 7 happens, and then he's there. I think he's the one who's dragging the body of the tattooed guy away, so I don't think he dies. I don't think there's anything we can derive from going to that scene. One thing we can derive is who exactly, well, almost who exactly the guy who murdered Lars Linde is, because I had a look through the list and I worked out which 2 people have a shared surname. So, out of this, over to here, the surname in question is Peters. We have a Samuel Peters, seaman from England, and a Nathan Peters, seaman from England. So we know that that guy is one of the 2 Peters, because they were both brothers and they would have the same surname. Lucas Pope would not make it that awkward as to have people be brothers without the names being different, unless it was very nicely highlighted in some other scene. So for now I'm going to assume it's one of the 2 Peters brothers. What I can do at least is narrow it down to the role, because that is something else I have learned about how the book works. When I go to this... Oh, it's doing this again, okay. This is a deduction rating. Do I have to click? There we go. A higher rating means that it will be more difficult to deduce this person's identity. Focus on the easily deduced identities first, and leave the more difficult ones for later. So, we can't say exactly who they are, but we can narrow it down to a role, which is what these are for. When it says unknown, you say an unknown top man, so you narrow it down to specifically the role on the ship, and leave it at that. So, for now, he's an unknown seaman, but he's one of the Peters brothers, and I've made a note of that in my notebook, which is already gathering more and more things by the moment. And I think that is everything for the Doom that I have in the book, though I do want to look at the fate of this guy, who, let me remember, disappeared in the Doom. Okay, it's not saying exactly. Okay, let's click this. Memories, show on the deck map. He disappears after the Doom Part 8. So he doesn't make it to the next chapters. That is the last scene we see him in. So let's go look at the Doom Part 8. There we go. Close the book. There we go. I got it in the end. Taking a look at the Doom Part 8. We might have a couple of other fates to determine as well, because a lot of people went missing in the Doom. And then that final scene in the Doom, there's a lot of people being flung about by the Kraken. Let's take a look. Here we are. Yep, so we see the 2 of them. And this guy's here as well. There's the helmsman, off on his trip, and yeah, we can't get up here, I don't believe. Yep, no way of doing that. I did see someone who seemed to have a thumbnail that indicated they were up there, but I might be confusing it with something else. So, a lot of people being grabbed by the Kraken here. Who's this guy? Alright, that's that guy there who I haven't seen much of. I don't know where else he comes in. But he might be about to be taken away by it. Hard to say. It's grabbed hold of this guy with the hat. So he might be lost to the Kraken. And it seems likely we never see him again, so I've got to assume that the Kraken claims him. That everyone else just jumps off the deck, and all the survivors are the people who stay inside. Everyone else just gets claimed by the beast, and that's that. Where does he even get that from? That bit of the ship. Who knows? Oh dear. But yeah, this guy here. Let's take a look. That's that guy up there. Okay. Where is our friend with the distinctive collar? It's holding back the Formosans. Aha! And again, someone we just didn't spot until we knew to look for him. And we see him just as a tentacle is wrapping around him to most likely drag him into the sea. I think that's what's happening to a lot of the people here, a lot of people that go missing in the Doom. Guess what? The Kraken claims them. So there we go. Let's mark a couple more then. So the guy with the collar is Whaley. We do know the name actually, so this might be a complete fate that we discover. And what I've learned is that the book will give you a little bit of leeway in the fates that you mark, because it depends. Like sometimes the death is multiple at once, or the absolute minutiae aren't vital. So I think if you say that someone was drowned by the beast, it's the same as saying they were eaten by the beast, because you can't be sure exactly what the beast did. The key thing is that the beast dragged them into the water and then either left them or ate them. Probably ate them either way, but maybe they drowned beforehand. You don't know. So I'm going to say drowned by the beast, because that's worked so far. We can guess that that's correct. And then we have the guy with the hat. Wait. Oh! He's not in the disappearances. So he survives till later then. Okay. Now these two people here, they were on the boat, as was this guy. These three were all on the boat, and we seen in an earlier scene that the boat gets tipped up and they all fall into the sea. I don't even need to go back there. I remember it well enough to know they were drowned by the beast. They were all drowned by the beast. And I remember that is the correct face. Drowned by the beast. This was the guy trying to stop the Peters brother from killing Lars, but didn't do much of a good job of it, to be honest. And this was the guy that looks a bit like Leonard Nimoy, who was holding all the books. Now there's a chance that this is Henry Evans and actually he lived, but for now I'm just going to have to assume that he was drowned, because I saw him get tipped out of a boat by the Kraken. So we're looking a lot better now. I was a little bit worried when this came up last episode that I was going to really struggle to fill this in, but actually, we're mostly there. We've got the fates of 4, 5, 6 of them. I mean, admittedly, pretty easy. They were all drowned by a terrible beast. The last one is this guy who was stabbing at the creature. I think this was the one actually. Oh, let me just go back and check to be sure. But I think this is the one that was stabbing at the creature. Let's see. Yep, that's that guy. I'm gonna take a wild stab in the dark and say that after being stabbed by someone, the Kraken's like, oh no you don't, and just grabbed him and took him away. So, we'll go with that. So, it is in fact the case that the fate of everyone who vanished in this scene is that they were drowned by the beast. I don't know why I was so intimidated by it before. It was probably that I needed to find out the identities, but we've got plenty of time to work that out through the rest of the game. The key thing is that if you have all the scenes after a certain point, you can be sure of every death that happened since that point. That's something I've realized. Once I've gone through and looked at Escape and all the scenes in Escape, I should theoretically be able to determine the fates of literally every person found alive at the beginning of the Doom, because they all must have died or left. The only gap in that is the fact that we don't know about the bargain, but considering that we can only find out about the bargain once the game is complete, surely we must still be able to find out their fates. So everyone that we have seen so far dies between now and the end, and we can work them out once we've seen every scene in Escape. So we're going to try and fill all those in before we move on, because that's going to make it easier on me in the long run. The only issue is the identities, which is going to take a little bit more work. I want to work out this guy, because the tattoo guy is just keeps coming back to me. He's 2 difficulty though, so it's clearly not a walk in the park. But let's see what scenes we find him in. 5 memories total. Show them on the map. Let us see. So, first time we see him is the Doom Part 2, looks like. And the next time we see him is the Doom Part 3 and Part 4. He's here the whole time. He's missing for Part 5, which is the cannon going off, I think. Oh no, the cannon going off is Part 4. Part 5 is... What is Part 5? He dies in Part 7. The explosion's in Part 6. I guess he's below deck still when Part 5 happens. Part 5 is the crushing by the cannon. He moves above deck before the cannon crushes that other guy. And so when we get to Part 6, he's already there above decks. I guess to work out who he is, the best place I would say to look is the Doom Part 3, because he's only just got out of bed at that stage. So that might help us out. And he's perhaps not grabbed the sword yet, hard to say. The sword might just be hanging by his bunk, but it seems like he's asleep during the Doom Part 2, so he's in a different bunk. So it's a little bit confusing, but I think we can learn it. It says we can learn it. It tells us that that is the case. So if we go to that scene, I think we can find out. So let's close the book, and let's go to that scene. And I realise we've not looked at any new scenes yet, but the thing is that that's not what this game is about. Looking at all the scenes is all well and good. It's a fun thing. You get the idea of the basic story. But the point of the game is to work out who's who, so that's what I'm focusing on. Maybe I'll give us one new scene at the end of the episode, but right now I'm very much in detective mode. I've had some time to think and put together some theories and some plans. So now I want to work it all out. I think I'm in a good position to do that. So that is the... That is who I think is the steward. That's my guess. We're going to leave that for the moment. This is the next part of the Doom. Oh, come on. Let me do it. This is the next part of the Doom, Part 3. I wonder, does the sound play if I don't do this? Ah, if I move the mouse, it sets off the sound, so we can still do it step by step. By the way, Irish. That sounds to me... Well, let's play it. There we go. That person giving the orders sounded to me like they were Irish. So now we're taking a tangent here, because I'd forgotten about that, but this is something I realised before. They sound Irish, and if we go to the crew manifest, I believe there are only 3 Irish people on board. Emil O'Farrell, the butcher. Let's see... there's Patrick O'Hagan, who's a seaman from Ireland, so it makes sense that he will be down below decks. If I check my notes, so the hammock for number 58 is not present in the previous scene. That perhaps means that he was already awake, which might mean that he was the guy getting food. That could be possible. I feel like there was another person from Ireland. Did I just miss? Samuel Galligan, second mate steward. Less likely to be manning the guns immediately after everyone's been woken up. So I think that might be the clue. This guy was around, but he was awake. And there weren't many people awake at that stage. Could be, though, that he's the guy that gets eviscerated by the cannon. Because he was also awake, he was at the table, and his number wasn't visible. So that's possible. Okay, back to what we were doing, but that is noted for later. Could be important. So, guy with the tattoos, where are you? There he is, he's here. We can see that this is still up, this one, but the other ones have gone down. There were 2 hammocks hanging here, I believe, though the nails seem to have vanished from existence. Let's just take stock of who's who here. So that guy in the background, he's been appearing in a couple places. I need to get a better idea of his timeline. This guy we know lives. Don't know who he is, though. It'd be good to find out. This guy here, he was presumably asleep as well. This guy must have been asleep as well, right? And the sword was hanging over here. Does he have a sword on him? No. So he gets the sword from somewhere. Maybe it's over there. Over here. This is where the 2 people were eating. So this was what was it? Way something. And, oh, now we can look around here and see if we can see the number, but I think it's just not going to be a thing. I think we just can't see the number. So we can just clip through this table now. Seems like there's a little bit of an issue with the tables in this game, that sometimes they simply don't exist. Same for the stools. Don't know whether that's intentional or not, but we can get a closer look and see that this is definitely 41. The sword was hanging just here. Can't quite see because it's at the limits of where we are. This guy's immediately over here. Oh yeah, there was only 1 hanging here, there were 2 hanging over here. They all move over this way immediately. And here's the guys getting crushed by the cannon. So this guy here is at the table. He's one of the 2. And then, what happens to the other guy at the table? Perhaps he runs off this way. He moves awfully quick then. Because, yeah, he's just gone. He's none of these people. He's not present in this scene. Interesting. So he just legs it off up this way, presumably. Ends up on deck and gets killed that way. Don't know who this guy is. We don't know who came from what hammocks, but we can try and... Okay, let me... I've got my page open, so... This guy was at the table. This guy over here could have been at this... The hat. The hat might have been by his hammock. That means I have to go back to that scene now and see if I can spot the hat, so I'm going to have to listen to that again at some point. Maybe I'll do that between episodes to spare you that once again. This guy here. There's just not enough information. This hammock has fallen, but that doesn't tell us anything. That was hammock number 45. Oh no, that was hammock number 56, which was occupied. Let's have a look at some of the people involved. Let's look at the numbers we have. We'll do it that way round. So we have 45, who is Leonid Volkov, Russian. I don't think we hear anyone Russian speak. Perhaps the hat is a clue there? I'm not sure. Maybe that's supposed to be an indicator. Because we see a few different people wearing top hats. About 3. Maybe that's supposed to be a Russian thing? I don't know what... If that's how that works. Maybe there's some traditional dress they're using here to try and demonstrate things. Now we're getting into like looking on Wikipedia territory. Who else do we have in the 40s? We have Marba. Aha. The tattoos. That might be the clue then. That is someone that is in a hammock towards the front of the ship. And everyone else is from England, Russia, Denmark, Wales, India, Sierra Leone. I think it's just Sierra Leone now. Is that a change in dialect over time? That's neat. Or a change in pronunciation and spelling. They are number 55. They don't have a hammock down here. They're not listed, so they might be on another deck entirely, which would mean they're not present. I think that Marba is our guy with the tattoos. He has a hammock, he was asleep, he's close to where he was. The hammock in question was just here. You can't quite see it, but it was hanging just here. Then he must have run across, he's just got here, he's picking up those things which I think are for loading the cannons, ready to help with everyone else. He took a little bit longer to get here because he was over there in his hammock. I think this is the guy. Let's mark him in the book. This is the meat of the game. This is the bit that I'm really loving now. It's like I want to see the scenes and learn the plot, but this part where you're like going full on detective, I'm loving it. So there we are. To difficulty. This is a little... It's partly a shot in the dark. We're not sure, but I think that's what it is, and I'm willing to put that down on paper. So this is... Let's find him. Marba. That's my guess. I don't think we have 2 people fully guessed yet. If I go to the... I don't think we have 3 people. I think we're at 2. If we go to the crew manifest, we can have a quick look. So we can look through the ones that aren't committed to type and see how many we have that are complete. So that one's complete, that one's complete, they're the only ones complete. So that's why we haven't had them unlocked. We need to find out one more person before we are counted as complete. Before we are counted as having another 3 to check. So I think we're done with this scene. One more, in fact, I don't think we need to look at this scene. I think I can just assume it right now, because we know that book, escape, we like, this guy here was crushed by a cannon in the like 2 scenes later. And we don't need to go look at that to know anything more about him. I think his identity is given to us in scene 2 of The Doom. I think he is Martin's steward, and that's why he's carrying the food for him. Because he's carrying 2 plates. He's carrying his and Martin's plates. And Martin is keeping an eye on him. It seems like that's what that is, and that would be why he stood here. Why else would he be stood here unless he's an officer or a steward. And if he was an officer, he wouldn't be carrying Martin's food for him, I don't think. As third mate, I think they would be carrying the food separately, but because he's carrying both, I think he's a steward. I'm going to mark it as such. So he's third. No, let me just check. Third mate is Martin Perrott. Yep, so we got that right. We know that guy's Martin. So let's find. There we go. Third mate steward Roderick Anderson from England. Well done. 3 more fates correct. And there we go. And the cool thing is, we're not even through with all the stuff I had in my notes to go over today. There are more things that I think I can work out right now. The reason for that is because it's where is it? It's in the Escape. The one scene from the Escape. I mean, it's already told us who Peter is, but I think there's more we can work out. If we go to this, for example, you tell yourself, Brennan, bring the surgeon's kit. Now, someone pointed something out to me, and this was slightly cheating, but it happened in the comments of episode 2 before I'd specified what I did and didn't want in the comments, so I'll let it slide. But they pointed out that in that scene, someone's got their hand to their ear, as if their name's just been called. So what I'm going to do is hop back to that scene and mark that person. And there's also one more thing we can do, because these quarters here, I think, are marked as somebody's. If we check the ship map, plans, okay, this is for the midshipman. So we go in here. Are there any numbers around by any chance? Doesn't seem like it. They haven't included them here. That makes sense. It makes sense with the hammocks, because you want to know whose is who, so you can continue to sleep in your own. So they've all been assigned numbers, which happen to, well, of course they match up with the crew manifest, I suppose. That would make sense. I don't know why passengers are higher than some of the actual people working on the ship, but let's not question it. So there's no numbers on here, but there are only 2 beds in here. Well, actually, no, there's 3. But we can work out that this guy is a midshipman. We don't necessarily know who, but we can assume that he's one of the 3 that sleeps in this room. Let's have a look at the scene, though, and find out who that one person is.
Oh, no. You're cut.
Don't leave me.
Bear up, son. I'll stay with you.
Tell Pete's mother I tried my best
Aye.
to pull him back, to save him.
You tell her yourself. Brennan! Bring the surgeon's kit!
Oh, man, I heard those sea motorbikes going by again. So, just having a quick poke around, because I didn't have a full look at this scene before. Also, we get a different theme for each of the chapters, which is neat. Oh, let me check for the knife. Is it here? Is the knife actually here? I don't see it. I don't see it around at all. Is he holding the knife? No. I don't see the knife. That's very strange, because we find it outside the room. But if it's not here now, then how could it have ended up there? Was it planted? Is this a little bit more complicated than we thought? We wander over here. What is that on the floor? Is that a hat, or is that just a weird splotch of blood that's come out strange? Looks like it could be a hat, I'm not sure. Actually, I guess if we identify this person, are they wearing a hat? Oh. Well, now we know what happens to that guy. He gets his face utterly smashed in, and that is his hat, in this vent. Let me check who this guy here is again. That guy, who we keep seeing, but I keep forgetting about him. He's very forgettable, even though he has a fancy hat and all that, but he never wears the fancy hat, so it's his own fault for no one knowing who he is. But we have this guy here, who is that guy up there, who we see in the Doom a couple times. And then this guy, he's got his hand to his ear. And this guy is one of the ones who tries to kill the captain. I'm going to assume that he's Brennan. Because that makes sense. Actually, there's a better way to do this. If we just look, open the book, we go straight to him, select, knifed. So he was one of the ones who was helping the first mate break in. And his name is Brennan. I know that's a surname. I've seen it before. Brennan. There he is, Henry Brennan. Just a boring old seaman. Number 56, who was asleep in one of the hammocks earlier on. I'm going to cross that off on my little chart, as well as Maba. There's two of those people narrowed down. There we go. I believe he was knifed by the captain. So he lives quite a while, does quite a few things, and then dies. Also, why is he bookmarked? I don't want him bookmarked. He's the only person bookmarked. I haven't been using that feature yet. I probably should start doing it. It seems like it makes some things easier. But yeah, I think we have his whole story now. I think he is complete. Though, is that... How many have we got? Well, we've just got another 3 done, so I think that's like the only new one we have right now. Quick poke around. More blood. Oh. Someone stumbles over here. Bleeding. Does he? He can't, though. He's got no face left, unless he gets hit, stumbles away, gets chased, and then beaten, which seems to be by this guy. He's holding a club. But maybe it was by this guy, and then he took him out afterwards. Getting very complicated. But yeah, that was the thing I came for, to work out Brennan, because it is this guy. He hears his name called, puts his hand to his ear, the guy says the rest of the sentence, and then the scene ends. And I think that's all we have right now. Now that's a lot of new stuff worked out. I think we're towards the point now where we start looking at new scenes again. So, I'm gonna leave this one, and even though we're going quite long with this episode already, let's have one last new scene. And get a little bit more information about what happens in the escape. Oh, door shot on me. Magically. Seems very strange. And there's the knife. Why does it end up there? I've got to assume he was killed by a knife, but it doesn't seem quite right. You don't see the knife in him. Maybe it's just because it's dark. It's hard to tell. But let's look at this guy. This is our next one on the list. Was he the murderer or the murdered? I mean, he was the murdered, but was he also the murderer? Let's find out.
What's all this, you damn fool?
Well then, that didn't take long. He has a pistol, and this guy comes up behind him, Brennan, and just smacks him around the face, killing him. It looks like he's just shot him in the head. After following... Yeah, so he must have been injured and then got away. This guy came after him with a gun, shot him in the face, definitely killed him. Then this guy comes up behind him and smacks him around the head. Meanwhile, this guy, who we still don't know the exact identity of, here's... Oh, there he is. Crawling along. And there's the knife in his back. Right, so he is killed by a knife. This guy hears the commotion, runs down, sees that. This guy's run down earlier. Kills him. Right. A lot more stuff worked out then. About the exact chronology, even beyond, even into the deaths that we're going to see later. But there we go. Nothing to see here yet. There we go. The escape. Part 5. Smacked around the head with a bat. And we know who did it. So, clubbed by Mr. Brennan. We don't know who he is yet, though he appears in quite a few memories. He's in the Doom a lot, but we can't work out exactly who he is from that, and the book says so. It's his face isn't clear yet. Also, now that we're absolutely sure of it, let's mark that this guy was indeed knifed. Don't know who by. It was probably the guy that shot the other one, though maybe there were multiple people involved in this. Hard exactly to say. Close the book. And I'm going to take a wild guess and say that this is the next death. It seems like the watch only takes us to the previous death, not to any other deaths in the location. So that's something worth noting. It's only going to take us back in reverse chronological order. Presumably that's the guy, right? Yeah, there we go. He glows when he's concealed. For some reason, the light shines in everywhere but where the actual body is. It's a little bit strange. But let's add this one to our to the deck, I suppose. Oh, I wonder where this one's going to take us. Enjoy your trip there, weird glowy force. And there he is, the guy in the hat that we thought was Martin, but isn't Martin. He's somewhat important, presumably, based on the hat, but we're going to find out about that later on. So this was a very productive episode in terms of working out what we were doing. We got 6 new confirmed deaths and identities, 6 more complete entries. We're up to 9 now, so that's pretty nice. So there we go. I don't know if there's a nice way to look at like the... Oh, if we look, we can look at the chronology of everything actually. If we go to the front of the book, go to the ship, then we can look through the entire like sequence of events that goes on. So we got the escape. Well, that happens halfway through. We start, I suppose, the very first memory we have is Lars Linda's murder. Then we go down to the front of the ship, and then we have the events with the cannons. Everything going wrong with that, the poor steward dying as he just goes past, I suppose. He wasn't there in any other scenes. I think he was just running by to get up to the top deck, and he gets hit by a cannon and dies. And the explosion, and then that guy being torn apart, then she gets smashed in the face. Then we go down to here, some murders happen, and then we come up to here with the final confrontation of the captain, ending in his suicide. Of course, the final death would be a suicide. I wonder if any of the others are. It might happen. It seems like some very grim things take place here, and perhaps that might occur a little bit more. But that is where we're going to end it for today. Next episode, I guess we're going to look at the rest of the escape, and then once we've got all that laid out, we can take stock and work out a few more deaths, and see if, well, we'll be able to work out the fates of everyone we have seen so far. Presumably based on this, because unless people are predicting the future, I don't see how the fates could be hidden from us. There we go. We'll have a lot to work out once we have all of that covered. But that's for next episode. For now, I should say goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.